Okay, so I'm going to do a quick repair video on this Toshiba LED TV, which is probably going to hopefully cover quite a few other brands of TV as well, of all sizes, that have a full array backlight. So the fault with this TV is that it will turn on, it'll work fine, and then at random times the backlight will turn itself off. So what I mean by that is that this TV can be on for 10 minutes at a time, or it can be on for an hour or hours at a time before the backlight just randomly turns off, and you can't turn it back on unless you restart the TV. And even then, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it'll go off. It's just random, really. So it's quite a common thing. I've seen it on loads of LED TVs, and every LED TV that I've repaired, and I've done hundreds of them, if I ever tear them down to the backlight, there's a modification that I do, which I've said to people previously in my previous LED TV repair videos, which are about 6 years old now, I think. So the actual fault with this is because of the LED string connectors. What happens is somehow they end up getting carbonized, maybe just due to being DC and running at quite a high voltage. Maybe there's an arc that happens, I'm not sure. But over time, somehow the connectors get carbonized and they lose their tension from the connector to the contact pad on the LED strings. And then what happens is it'll cause an intermittent connection on the LED string itself, which can break down at any point. Normally when the TVs are on and the LEDs are running warm, you get the expansion in the boards ever so slightly. They might move slightly and it'll cause the connector to break its contact. And as soon as that happens, the LED driver goes, oh wait, so I was driving you at about 200 volts or whatever, depending on the screen size and how many LEDs are in it. So, oh, I was driving 200 volts a second ago and now I've got no feedback from that rail. Okay, let's turn off the backlight and then wait for the rest of the TV to be restarted before it'll start back up again. So, as I've shown, not clearly in my older videos, because it was right at the end of the video section where I've repaired the LED backlight, I mention about the LED connectors in the panel breaking down and failing. So what I do is I use some solid copper wire and I bridge over the connectors. And basically what that does is it skips them out of the circuit and means that there's a permanent solid connection that isn't detachable unless you have a desoldering iron or a pair of cutters, yes, but it's a permanent connection that isn't going to break down from the LED strings to the connectors to the branch off board. So what I'm going to do is I've confirmed the fault with this TV. I've been testing it for a few hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to inspect the LEDs. I'm going to see if there's any LEDs that aren't working properly, because what you can have on TVs, and I will load a picture of this up afterwards, is you can have an LED that's shorted out internally that is breaking down with heat, and it can lose its internal connection, which then breaks the LED string circuit and it will cut the backlight off as well. But that'll only happen if the LED is shorted out and has gone off. It won't happen on LEDs that are working and operating normally. They don't go intermittent. I've never seen that happen apart from edge lit LED TVs. I've seen intermittent LEDs on them, but they normally are easy to spot when they go intermittent. But I've never ever seen it on a full array backlight, so you haven't got to worry about the LED being intermittent. Guarantee you it's always going to be the connectors breaking down when you get intermittent backlight failures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart. I'm not going to show you how to do this because my older videos do actually show you how to do this. I'm going to take it all apart to the LEDs, then I'm going to bridge over the connectors. I'm going to show you that. I'm then going to test the TV, and if it's fixed, I'll then post a follow-up at the end of the video. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to confirm here that all the LEDs are in good working order. As you can see, they're all burning a nice bright white colour, and they're not burning like a darkish blue. So none of them flicker or anything, so pretty confident the LEDs are okay. It's just going to be these connectors up here that have failed and need bridging over, so I'm going to do that now. Right, okay, so here's the repair. You'll have to excuse the nasty looking job. I've only got a wedge soldering iron tip, which is pretty big. So it's sort of gotten a bit melted, but that's what I mean by I bridged them over. So you don't want to melt the LED lenses, at least. You want to make sure you keep them in good condition. Otherwise you're going to get shadows. It's just the connector that's gotten a little melted. So I'm going to put it back together and we're going to run it. Alright, so I've given the TV a good clean up and been testing it now for a few hours. And I'm confident that it's fixed. All nice and glossy now. There's a bit of dirt left over still, but it was pretty bad. What I've also done on this as well, seeing as this is a Vestel, is I've updated the firmware to the latest version. You can get firmware dumps for the 17MB82 on the internet, just on Google. So I've updated the firmware. All you do is download it, put it on a USB stick. You can either put the USB in, and when the TV boots up, press and hold OK, and it will boot up the new firmware. But if the TV does boot up, you press menu 4725. Takes a few tries. You go down to USB operations with the USB plugged in, and you can press that and it'll start uploading the new firmware files. And another good thing to do on Vestels is after you do that is I always then go to diagnostic and then I do a factory reset, which is this one. It just clears any of the cache because the firmware does corrupt on these quite often. So the next thing I do is I go into the backlight, or the picture settings, sorry. I go to backlight and I set it to low because obviously the backlights in these fail quite often because they run pretty hot. And if you set it to the low setting, it just helps reduce wear that's on the backlight. Hopefully keeps it running a bit longer. So yeah, I've tested this out and the little DVD drive on this one works. These are quite temperamental on the Vestels, I will say. Quite impatient with that as well. But yeah, that all works fine, so I tested that, so I can hopefully sell this TV now. Because I'm pretty confident that it's going to be working reliably. So this repair covers like all brands as well: Sony, LG, Samsung. I don't really class Panasonic as its own brand anymore because they rebadge Vestels, just like this Toshiba. But yeah, I've seen it on all brands of TV, and whenever you change an LED backlight, unless it's a brand new set of LEDs, I'd probably trust them to be okay. But on if you ever take apart an LED backlight to repair the original backlight, just bridge them connectors over with a bit of wire because they're known to fail. And they cause intermittent backlight. So that's just a quick video and hopefully it helps somebody. So cheers.